everyone. This is the host, Dr. Tomi Mitchell from the Mental Health and Wellness Show. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing John Sanders. He's the founder of Rev Key and has helped hundreds of therapists stop wasting money on vanity metrics and start growing real, sustainable practices through Google Ads. He's blunt, transparent, and focused on one thing: conversions that count. If you're in private practice or serve those who are, you'll want to hear about how John turned a niche into a movement and what he sees coming next with AI and advertising. With no further ado, John, welcome to the show.
Tommy, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so maybe we'll start with what I often ask my guests is what should listeners know about you to kind of understand where you come from, so where your authority in this space is. So they're like, okay, yeah, I get it. John is credible. He's my guy.
Sure. We probably start back in 2015 when two things happen. First, I take a job as to run a Google Ads management for a marketing agency specialized in dentistry.
Okay.
And right around the same time, my wife was going out and founding her private practice, and she is an assessment psychologist.
Mm.
So during the day, I'm working with dentists, helping them with their Google Ads, and then at night, doing the same thing for my wife, finding that there is definitely like a lot of overlap in terms of strategies when it comes to like physical locations and things like that. And then 3 years later, like many of your listeners, decided I was no longer willing to listen to bosses and went out and started my own thing and started Rev Key, quickly got some therapy clients, and it's just kind of continued to roll from there. But not only therapists, we've also worked with some lawyers, and in the past I've done chiropractors and other kind of sorts of odd businesses. We currently have a pet groomer who is owned by a therapist, and they said, "Can you do our pet grooming business?" And I was like, "Sure, we can do that too." So it's good to get outside your comfort zone occasionally.
Definitely, I agree. And your story is similar to many of my guests. There's usually like a personal connection, which gives it sense of like it's real. Like you're seeing it frontline, you're in the trenches there with your wife, and this is the area of interest. And I like how even in your bio you talk about being blunt and transparent. And those are two things that I appreciate myself, transparency and blunt. And blunt doesn't necessarily mean like we're rude. It just means that we're gonna tell you the truth to get the results and stop chasing like how many Instagram followers you are, or random, as you call it, vanity metrics that really at the end of the day don't lead to conversions, aka relationships, aka people like paying you money and using your services and you're growing. Is that
Right. It reminds me of a conversation I actually had a couple of months ago with a group practice that was in the Bay Area,
Mhm.
and their website was bad. And I went back through Wayback Machine and looked, and they had the same website for 10 years. And I got on a call and said, "Guys, this website is not cutting it, especially in such a tech heavy area. You've
Yes.
got to redo this website if you're going to be competitive." And they were like, "We know." They're like, "We just needed to hear it from somebody finally, but so thank you for being blunt and telling us." And it came from a place of love and wanting to, actually help.
Thank you. You put the words into my mouth because when you have truth, like telling someone the truth with love, you can say amazing things. You can
Right,
say what someone else be like, oh, I'm not comfortable saying that. It might hurt their feelings. I was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you in this industry if you're not helping? Like, as a physician, I say the truth with love. And as a coach, the truth with love, because I'm going to tell you that your lifestyle habits or this piece in your mental health is going to derail you from the goals that you want to achieve, right?
right.
Recognize you have goals because we got to have us somewhere pointing us in the right direction. And there's things in the way that are blocks. And our goals as experts, one of our responsibilities as well, is to teach you, to show you, right? So,
Absolutely. And it's so, especially from some marketing people, when you call somebody to talk about SEO or Google Ads, in a lot of cases, you end up just talking to a sales guy who will just blow whatever smoke they need
yes.
to get you to sign. And that's been one of the things that I really kind of brought into RevKey, is because, I came from this agency model where I was on the back end working on Google Ads, but then I had some front end account manager talking to the client. And I don't think that that system works. I think that, I really have insisted that the person you're talking to is the person who's running your Google ads. So you're not playing this weird game of telephone where the account manager doesn't give the Google ads manager the right information or answers their questions. And so really having that direct connection is so important.
100% connections, relationships, very important. You're speaking my language. So, with that being said, I am going to dive into a few questions because I really want to get into the nitty-gritty of this. So, I'm, when before we got on this podcast, you were talking about more and more therapists are seeing the importance of advertising. And actually, that's for me, that was refreshing because from as a consumer who consumes content, I wasn't yet seeing that, but I'm glad it's happening. Maybe because mental health is my world, so I don't really notice everything. But anyway, I'm glad that people are starting to be strategic because in this day and age, the mental health crisis, as I call it, it's a relationship crisis. Again, I know that's another conversation, is really
Right.
big, right? And in business and marketing, you do have to have a strategic mindset. So, to the therapist listening to us, or to the dentist listening to us, or the chiropractor, or the doctor listening to us, how can this actually be a not just an investment with ROI, but also on a personal level to reduce their stress and support their mission of helping people in the first place? Because I believe the majority of us came in with a good intention, which is to serve and to help people. So let's just
Right.
open that conversation. Like, why is this important?
Well, I think it's particularly important for practices where you've got a lot of openings on your schedule.
Mhm.
So you own a practice and you've got this employee looking at you saying, why is my schedule not full? And
Hmm.
that's very stressful for a lot of people. And so this is one of those ways to get people to get those schedules full. I was actually having a sales call just yesterday where somebody said, "Look, if I don't get these three providers something soon, they're
They're
going to
gonna
leave."
leave, of course.
So this is dealing with that and trying to really fill up those schedules. And then from the ROI side, it's asking the question of, okay, how many leads are we getting, how many of those leads are turning into clients, and then what is that average value of a client, which is going to
Hmm.
be so different. If you're talking about a dental model where you're doing cleanings twice a year, that's very different from somebody charging $300 an hour for therapy in New York City. And so it's finding that average client value, and with the idea of for every dollar you spend, you should be making a lot more in revenue. Usually, the kind of the minimum I'm looking for is like 8 to 1, um,
Good.
15 to 1, and then some practices they'll tell me, yeah, we keep people for years. We're charging 250 an hour, and then in some cases they can be getting a return of for every dollar they're spending, they're getting $30 back, and it's just putting everything in place to get to the point where you can do that successfully with your ads, which is not necessarily just about your ads, but also about your practice and your website and so many other things.
That's good. Like you're talking about like even the lifetime value of a client, right? And businesses need to
Right.
look at that because I find a lot of businesses, especially when they've thrown money on the wall, like spaghetti on the wall, they've just tried to do it themselves, which many have, and they're like putting an ad that never performed even organically, and they're like, I'm gonna throw money behind it, and it failed, and they wonder why. But
Yeah, absolutely. That same sales call I was just having, they were like, we want to spend a bunch of money on this. I was like, let's maybe start small, like make sure it works, and then let's spend the money. Like once we know that everything is working, like if you just come out of the gate and like throw money at it, that does not always work.
exactly. And I like how you said that. Let's start small because you're not necessarily thinking, you're looking at your results and your reputation, right? Let's start small, make sure it works, tweak the copy, etc., the demographics, and then throw money on it. Because there's a
Right.
formula. Once you get that sweet spot, you really can. get a lot of clients and see some really good growth. And I really like that 1 to 50, 1 to 8. You're quite aggressive. I like that. Like that's
I
a
mean, especially in larger practices where it's warranted, if you've got hundreds of openings, then yeah, you're going to have to spend a lot more on Google Ads. Whereas, if you're running a smaller practice and you've just got 20 openings to fill, that's definitely a different level of spend, and you just have to be prepared to do that. I do find in a lot of cases though that people contact me after they've already maybe made some of the mistakes of, oh, maybe we overhired already. And those are tough situations where they're really looking for results yesterday. And Google Ads is definitely something, especially in the first 30 days, very much kind of a shakedown cruise, figuring out what's working and what's not. And it's probably not until day 90 until you can have the first time you can say, is this making us money? And then probably 6 months in to really kind of get a full judgment on saying, okay, we've spent X amount of money on this. How many leads have we gotten? How many clients have we gotten? Is that average lifetime value of the client holding up? And, ultimately, is this paying for itself?
exactly. And you know what? It takes time, like you said. 30 days is even just like at least 90 days to really get to be able to
Absolutely.
evaluate what's going on. And for businesses who are perhaps used to they shone in school, they know that they do great work. It can be a paradigm shift to know that, okay, you may not see the results for like 90 plus days. Yes, I know you want the problem fixed yesterday, but there's a strategy. It takes time, and that you have to work the system, right?
Yeah.
People don't typically go viral overnight, and like that's just it's not, and even quote unquote viral, I feel like it's not just, there's a lot of work that went behind it that people don't even see, right?
Right.
To get to that
Absolutely.
point and recognizing, okay, let's tweak this copy, let's do this different. So anyway, that's another story, but yeah, I like what you're saying, and really helping the therapist or the professional know that it's going to take time, but it will reduce your stress because at the end of the day, our goal is to help, right?
Right. And to, yeah, get those schedules filled up and ultimately, start bringing a return up for the practice.
So working with these therapists and hearing, like building that relationship with them, what are some of the biggest and psychological costs that you see therapists pay when their marketing isn't working? And how does focusing on conversions that count help restore their mental and financial well-being?
Yeah, I think it starts off with, especially in kind of the rough economic times we're in, where
Yes.
people are fairly squeezed. And right now as we're recording this, we're in the middle of a government shutdown. I've lost one client this week specifically because of most of their clients were federal employees. So
Yeah.
um, so there's definitely a lot of squeeze in there. Um, because people do have schedules that are not getting filled up. More people are asking about insurance. People are becoming more price sensitive, and I do also think that one of the things that is the knee jerk reaction that a lot of people make when economies get bad is to stop spending on
Spending
money on
less.
advertising,
Yes.
because all this does is it's a death spiral, is that
Yeah.
you'll just end up with fewer and fewer customers.
Yeah.
And so you just have to make sure that the marketing that you're spending on is being effective, and that's
Dialed
where
in. Mm-hmm.
kind of dumping some of the more vanity based metrics, likes on Facebook and things like this, stop spending on some of that, and start spending on things that are actually going to produce clients for you. And so you can just, we do Google Ads, but in a lot of cases, we also kind of end up being a little bit of a business coach at some point and saying,
100%.
and talking through some of these things like this, or even saying, hey, the form on your website is too long and people are not filling it out because it's too long.
Yeah. It's like it's 10
You're
questions. They don't want all that. They want like name.
Absolutely. I actually had one of my account managers write a blog about this. This is kind of been my crusade for the year, is people confusing interest forms with intake paperwork,
Oh
and
my
those
gosh.
are two very different animals, and
Completely.
don't try to make them the same thing, because
Yeah.
the argument is that, oh, well, the people who do it will be serious. Yes,
No.
that's true,
Yeah.
but you're gonna lose a lot of people who were serious along the way when you're asking for things like upload an image of your insurance card, please give us a credit card number ahead of time. Like, none of this stuff is
No,
helpful.
no,
So,
no, no. And let's be real, this we're still on the internet, right?
yeah,
People want to still build a connection, make sure you're real, like do all those things before they
right.
say, here's my credit card information. So yeah, definitely. I'm curious, are you finding like generational gaps for people who are interested in Google marketing, like Google Ads? Like from like the newly minted therapists and those who've been in the trenches for like 20, 30 years, are you finding differences?
Um, I think a lot of it comes down to a lot of the younger therapists ended up starting their practices. And I've heard this story so many times, like right around COVID. They were like, yeah, I just signed a lease in January of 2020. And I was like, oh, that was some wonderful timing. And so, like, they've had to kind of learn as they go. Um, and then also, because that kind of messed up our cycle for a while, because for a while people didn't go on vacation, and then people started going on vacation again in 2023. And so all of a sudden summers got slow, and people are like, why is it slow in the summer? It's never been like this before. Well, it's because
The
people
world opened.
vacation. We
Yeah.
kind of got back to normal.
Yeah.
Um, so that, I think, has been a learning curve for some of them. But I think, specifically for therapists or doctors or dentists, you go to school and you learn how to do what you do really well, and then you're thrown out in the world and expected to be a business owner. And
100%.
yeah, and a lot of people have, maybe had one business class. And so I think one of the best
Maybe.
things that clients can do is trust the professionals that they've hired to make some of these decisions, and kind of trust some of the things that we say, and ultimately take advice, which is really no different than, a lot of, doctors telling their patients things, taking the doctor's advice, right?
Definitely. And you said a lot of things that are for me that really like in relationships we call them green flags, where you share with them things that aren't working. Like you also mentioned how you almost like a coach. And I feel like in any service-based business, there needs to be a coaching component. Otherwise, I'm sorry, you're just like this. It's just there's a big disconnect because I've worked for groups who didn't do anything that you mentioned. They're just like, oh, you have a post? We're gonna put an ad on that, slap some money in that. Here's a monthly retainer. And they took credit for my internal. Like it was just like I've seen a lot, and already I'm feeling the vibes. I'm appreciating that you're seeing that it takes time building the relationships, that 90 days. Like there should be open discussion, and we're looking at conversions that count, relationships, really getting in the mind of your potential buyer, recognizing they have a lifetime value, recognizing that you have skills. And at the end of the day, we have to bring them in alignment. So your messaging must really connect with them so that they're like, oh, this is a potential solution for my pain point, right?
Right.
And like you said, business classes before business owner. I started a business. I was 26 in my 20s and already had like $2 million in business investment. There was not even one business class associated with that. It was gut Google searches. I made mistakes, but I learned a lot. But most of us professionals were not taught anything. Maybe it's changing
Right.
now. It's a lot easier with perhaps, but it's not easy, but this is part of business.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a learning process, and you're definitely going to make mistakes along the way. But it's just learning from those mistakes, and then, like I said, taking advice, and not necessarily going with the I'm the smartest person in the room approach. And so I'm just going to do what I want.
Exactly. What are some common objections that you hear from people when they're starting this journey? Like they know they need the service, they'll
Mhm.
call, but they'll try to talk themselves out of it. You know? What do you often hear?
The main thing is this is expensive. But also, what's also really expensive is the opportunity cost of not filling those spaces in your schedule. And ultimately, one of the reasons I occasionally get crossways with financial professionals is financial professionals will look at your profit and loss statement and say you're spending too much on marketing. Marketing is not a desk in your office. A desk in your office is not going to make you any money.
Thank you. Or business card. They think,
Right.
yeah.
Is that marketing is the idea of you're going to spend some money, but the idea is that ultimately how much are you going to get back from that investment. And it's I had somebody recently tell me, well, I don't have a lot of clients, but it's really hard to justify this expense, and it's very much kind of a chicken or egg situation in some cases, but ultimately, if you've got those spaces in your calendar to fill, you're going to have to spend money somewhere to make that happen. So I think that that's probably the most common objection. And then also time with patients, especially what we were talking about earlier, where if you've already made the bad decision and maybe overhired, and you've got a bunch of openings, and you're immediately like, okay, advertising needs to fix this problem in 2 weeks, that usually is not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so it's being ready for that advertising where your website is in alignment with the ads that we're running, and then making sure that your back end process is good to convert those leads into customers.
That's so true. I think many of us, most of us, including myself, I've definitely had too many staff in the past and made mistakes. But it's interesting as of the time of this recording, I'm not sure when we're going live with this video, with this discussion, but I'm actually opening my own medical practice again. I took a break from it for a few
Right.
years, and now I'm like, I'm ready. I've learned a lot. And one thing that is really brought me a lot of hope and encouragement on a business sense is AI. AI is not going anywhere. And I'm not saying I'm the earliest adopter, but I mean, I've been using it for about since COVID, before even ChatGPT became a thing. Like people knew what that was. Like I was already using AI
Oh, okay.
services.
Then you really are an early adopter. If
Oh
you
yeah,
if
I
you
was using like I think Jasper AI and other things like that before
oh, okay,
ChatGPT.
yeah.
Yeah. So I was paying not no $20 a month subscription. It was hundreds a month, but I was using it and it was definitely
Right.
making a difference. So AI is here, AI is not going anywhere. I always like the aliens among us. They're here, they're a tool, and we need to know how to use it and
Right.
10, 20, 30 extra productivity results, etc. because of it. Because if you're not using it, I don't know, I just think you're behind. But still, what are some things therapists need to know about the future of AI and marketing strategy? Because it's here. It's not going anywhere. And then also on the same hand, what are some like ethical considerations they should be aware of? And this is not probably just for therapists. This is probably for many of us professionals. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Sure. So specifically when thinking about like therapists and lawyers, especially when there's rules around the language that you can use in your ads, I've been pretty hesitant to let Google Ads just go out and write ad copy for me. Um, in one of their early cases, this was probably in 2019 when, now we're talking about really in the before times. I did allow Google to write an ad, and it called a master's level therapist, a psychologist. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, we're never doing this again. Actually, strangely, Google has actually just released something that is supposed to get around that. We will see. But for the most part, I do not let Google Ads write my ad copy. In a lot of cases, we might use ChatGPT, or I personally like Claude for writing stuff to help come up with some ideas for headlines and descriptions that we put in our ads. But I'm not quite ready to just hand that over 100% to AI. But now Google, a lot of what Google's doing now is no longer just based off of, did you type dentist near me into the search engine? So much of it is the intent and looking at kind of how the user is searching over multiple searches for things. And so that's kind of really been their big push recently. So, and that is much more integrated with some of their AIs. Um, in terms of how this is going to directly work, I think Google is still trying to figure out how that's going to work with Google Gemini. Google makes about 75% of its revenue from ads. So it's going to be built into Gemini at some point. And they're already experimenting with ways to do that. So I think really the big player out there right now is ChatGPT, and ultimately what ChatGPT does in the future is probably going to depend on their corporate structure. Right now, they are a mainly nonprofit with some profits sprinkled in, and I think that there's fights between a couple of billionaires about how that's going to work. So I'm not sure how that's going to go, but it'll be because really, if we go back to the beginning of the internet, really the two models that people have landed on is the ads model or the subscription model. Um, and so I don't think that we quite know where AI is going to land on that right now. Right now, we're leaning a little more on this subscription model, but we'll see if that holds. It's very much an evolving situation.
Yeah, why don't you, if you don't mind, just fleshing out the ads versus subscription model for those who are listening, like so
Oh,
they,
sure.
yeah, that'd be great.
So, this was the idea of, let's go back to Facebook back in the day. And so Facebook made the decision of, okay, instead of charging people to use our platform, charging them $10 a month, $15 a month, something like that, we're going to put ads on there. And then when people click on those ads, that is how we will get revenue. And so that's kind of been the poll. And I mean, it really even goes back to, you could even, think about streaming services where it's, are we going to have ads, or are we going to charge them? Are we going to charge somebody $15 a month to be able to view our platform?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Definitely two models that so ubiquitous, but sometimes we have to stop and think, okay, yeah, things have really evolved a lot. But like you said, AI is here to stay. So how do you in your own business, how do you leverage AI with your clients?
I think one of the main things that we've been doing is it's really easy when you write the same thing over and over and over again to get stuck in a loop, and you start writing the same thing. And especially if you've got 20 different clients writing the same thing over and over and over again. And so it's nice to be able to get some suggestions from AIs where, we can point the AI at our client's website and say, look at this website and write some ads for trauma therapy, anxiety therapy. And we don't usually use those like whole hog. In a lot of cases, we're like, oh, I really kind of like this snippet, and then kind of build off of that. So I think it helps us kind of break out of, kind of the loops that we get into where you just end up doing the same thing over and over again. Is one of the things. Another thing that we've done is within Google Ads, we'll have a search term report. And so these are the things that people are specifically searching that are causing our ads to show up. And so what we can do is we can take that list of all of those search terms and put it into Gemini or ChatGPT or whatever your AI of choice is, and say, which one of these is not a good search for this client? So we can filter out those keywords and put those on our negative keyword list so our ads don't show up for when somebody is searching for your competitor or massage therapy or equine therapy or whatever it is, the service that you don't provide. And so we used to do that a lot by hand and just kind of scrolling down. Now we can actually just throw that into one of the AIs, and those will usually do a fairly good job with that.
Yeah, definitely it's helped with the searching process. I know what people are actually looking for. What are those
Right.
keywords? That's really important. It is game changing. Um, and if you know what inputs to put in, it definitely can give you some great copy to work with.
Right. Absolutely.
So, where do you see the world of AI and Google Ads and marketing in general? Because at the end of the day, this is a pro businesses, many businesses are suffering right now. Okay. They're
Yes.
like, and I think the stats even years ago, I think 90% of businesses are kapoots within 5 years or something like that. I don't know what it is right now. Um, but there's a huge economic, systemic financial pressure like that I've never seen in my lifetime. Like there's been multiple major events in the past 2 decades, but right now it's like recession and um, poor leadership and so many other things that are happening at an esque. I think it's time to have some of my cranberry juice right now. This is actually blueberry juice, just for those who are wondering.
Okay, okay.
There's so much going on in the world right now. Um, and the rules are being changed like that. Jobs that were once secure jobs, oh, you have a federal job, oh my goodness, the security are no longer secure. AI is taking over many jobs. As much as we're talking about AI has, I think recently when we're recording,
Mhm.
Amazon, for example, is laying off, I think 600,000. Like they're all laying off. This is nothing new. Like it's just every year is a different number for different companies. There's a lot of fear. So if you could really talk to our listeners right now, regardless of what industry they're in, but they're like in the business space, they're into buying, selling, exchanging goods, ideas. What would you say to them to give them some hope, but also some truth? I don't like that fake positivity stuff. It's like everything's gonna be fine. Okay, Kuna Matata. No, it doesn't quite work that way. There's got to be some work in it. So I would love to hear your thoughts, John.
So I think for me, it comes down to evolve or die. That's
Thank
all.
you, Darwin. Thank
That's
you.
all there is to it. Is that so? I will see people will come to me with Google ads written by other people
Hmm.
that look like they were written in 2015
Hmm.
using tactics that are 10 years out of date.
Yeah.
And if people are not keeping up, specifically on, if you're in marketing, everything is constantly changing, but you can't run ads. We don't even run ads like we did 3 years ago. Um, a new style of Google ad out there is called Performance Max, which is much more based on AI. And a lot of the search ads where we put in our keywords and say show our ads to people who search these things, those are not as effective as they used to be and are becoming too expensive. And so here come these Performance Max ads that can also show on YouTube, they can show on Gmail, they can show on other websites in addition to search. And learning how to use these, and I'm shocked at how many of my competitors are like, oh, we don't use those. Those are bad. We don't like them. Well, that's too bad you don't like them. But if you don't get on board with this, you're in 3 years you're going to find that all of your ads are completely ineffective. So um,
100%.
you've just got to keep evolving, and there's no excuse of I'm too old to learn this new thing. Like that
Oh,
that
yeah.
doesn't that
No,
that
no, no,
that
no.
kills me when I hear people say that.
I hear you. Like,
No.
I hear you. I hear that even in like they don't have to have grades. They even like younger people,
Oh
they're
yeah.
the same. I like, oh, I'm too young, I'm too old, that's not my thing. Oh, the one thing that really kicked me, I once knew this marketer. I still know the person, but they didn't believe in ads. Marketer.
Oh yeah.
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 They don't believe in
Well, and that it comes down to the organic versus paid advertising. I'll tell you a secret is that a lot of organic people and paid people do not get along very well,
of
which is very
course.
sad in so many cases, especially if you're starting a new practice. You need clients now.
Yeah.
That's where ads can help you because your SEO, yeah, those are free clicks, but they're hard to get. You're going to spend some money to get there, and it's not going to kick in until 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, but you have bills to pay now.
Oh yeah.
So that's where ads definitely come into play, especially for, or if you're like a larger practice and you're constantly expanding, you're constantly hiring new people and adding new specialties. Um, so it's not one or the other. And they shouldn't be diametrically opposed. And so I have a couple of SEO companies that I specifically work with, and we can actually be like friendly. And they know that they look at the Google Ads interface and go, I don't want to do that. And then I look at some of the insanity on the SEO side and go, I definitely have no interest in doing that. And so that works out for us both.
Yeah, SEO is a very long game, is from my understanding.
It's a
It's
very long game.
very
Yes.
tedious. Like I still in my we run a few websites. We still deal with like we still like think about it and make changes and improve it, but it's a long game and it can be a slow game. But like you said, you need boots on the ground now. You need those bookings filled now. You got bills now. You need
Right.
a layered approach. At least that's what I believe, right? Marketing is a multi-layered approach, and there's many pieces that need to be looked after. Like you
Right.
mentioned, website copy. That one company that page looks at least 10 years old. Like that ain't gonna fly. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? At all. Like just the functionality, the look, it's like a copy and paste website. Um, Other social media, I'm a believer that you need to have a social media presence as well. Like it's not going anywhere, especially if you're more professionally based. I'm a big believer of LinkedIn. That's been my out of all the platforms, for me, that has
Absolutely.
been my number one income generating, lead generating platform by far. I don't think I'd be really, yeah, by far, hands down. I've never made a dollar on TikTok. Maybe one day, but no. But you got to know your audience, right?
Yeah, it depends on the type of business, whether that TikTok business model will work for you. I have come across a couple of therapists who have been relatively successful at that, but I think you have to find your niche, and
Yes.
that's also in a lot of cases something a marketer necessarily can't do for you because like you're the one who has to record those videos. Um,
Mhm.
and I think, kind of on the more traditional social media side, if we're talking about like Meta with Facebook and Insta, it's, especially if you are a larger practice and you are becoming a brand, that is something that is important for you. I for the most part, have not found those advertising on those platforms to be as good, just because I think, if somebody's on Facebook or they're on Insta and they're scrolling and they're in their disassociating time, they
Hmm.
flipping right past those
Oh yeah.
ads. And so your click through rate on those is less than 1%. And I would say even half of those are probably accidents.
Hmm.
And I think it's more of a long game on there, and it's a little bit of a fishing expedition. Whereas on Google, it's people who are typing something in or they're looking for something specifically, um, and trying to catch them in that moment when they're actually making those buying
Yes,
decisions.
the mentality that they're more action oriented
Right.
versus I find the Facebook crowd as like tire kickers. Like it's
Facebook is good for if you've got, I don't know, if you've got a course and
fair
you've
enough.
got,
I bought those courses on
oh,
Facebook. So
yep,
I'm one of them.
yeah.
I'm a good consumer. People like you market to me, you might get a sale. Like anyway.
Well, yeah, it's also interesting. We will sit around and think about how we end up buying things. And
Oh,
like,
you could study
oh,
my
I did
brain.
this and then I did this. A lot of people don't do that. But
Yeah.
on Facebook, in a lot of cases, you click on the ad and it takes you to the page, and you give them your email and you get the free PDF or
Yeah,
whatever it is. And then it might take you 6 months to convert after getting multiple emails from them.
of
And
course.
so, and I think with courses, that's very much the case. You really kind of have to have that long-term funnel set up, um, as opposed to, not a lot of cases, people aren't necessarily going to type in parenting or relationship course and like go out and immediately buy it. That usually does
See, that's
not.
me. I'm that like I'm the 1%, the hot cold pyramid, whatever. I'm that buyer
Right.
who's like, okay, if I want something, I will see it. I'll check it out. If it's gonna address my issues, I'll make the purchase. That's me. But
Okay.
yeah, I am that one. And I have to remember my consumers are not that way necessarily.
Right. I feel like I'm the person in a lot of cases. I will have that tab open for that thing that I want to do for 3 months on my desktop
Mm,
before I actually go, oh, yeah, I've been meaning to look at that and go out and finally make that purchase. So I do think that Facebook is a lot more branding and a lot more kind of long game versus, putting butts in seats.
100%. Like when I go through my social media, I see so many marketing companies right now. Probably every fifth ad is, "Are you opening a practice? Are you opening a practice? You need seats. You need," because I'm doing it. It's like they know he knows what I'm doing. It's they know they're everywhere. So what differentiates you from all those others that are just inundating my Instagram feed and page?
Yeah. So I think one of the things we touched on earlier is that, when you talk to us and you talk to your account manager at Rev Key, like you're talking to the person who's actually like changing your ads and doing everything. Whereas I think in a lot of cases, you're very much talking to a salesperson who is like, oh yeah, you're running a practice of 3 people. Yeah, you need to spend $5,000 a month on ads. And if anyone ever hears that, please run away because you don't.
That's
That's
so
what.
true. I've seen those people.
Yeah, is that it's the salesperson who, in a lot of cases, doesn't really even know
No,
what they're talking about. So, and so like when we hire people, we usually end up hiring people with one expertise or the other. Somebody who knows Google Ads, and we have to teach them the customer side, or somebody who's good with customers, and we teach them the Google Ads side. So
mm,
we're asking our account managers to be good at two very kind of different things. But I do think that is important. and
100%. I agree.
and really one of the things that I insist on is that my account managers talk to all of the clients that they work with every month. I've
Mm,
seen just too many marketing and advertising agencies just send you this 17-page PDF filled with tables and with a bunch of numbers that you don't know or understand. Is this a good click-through rate? Is that a good conversion rate? Is that a good amount to spend for a conversion? And like you have no point of reference for those.
100%.
They're not interested in actually,
They
you
don't want the
know,
transparency or the accountability or like the compensation. Like it's more
right,
transactional. It's like I gave you the PDF, here's a report, go figure it out, which is
right.
not what you're about. You're about
That doesn't
relating.
work. Yeah,
No, it doesn't.
that's horrible. Yeah.
It's like as a doctor, here's your lab results. Good luck. I did the
Right.
test. Right, here you go.
I might need those explained.
Exactly. And normal doesn't
I,
mean
I
normal,
don't I don't know what a good A1C is.
right?
So
Exactly. With the risk factors, with everything, lifestyle, all yeah, it's like a
right.
yeah, I agree. I agree. I like that. The the monthly contact, and I'm a big believer in that relationship and just building that relationship over time because this is a long game. Like
Right.
once a consumer business owner realize, hey, working with this team has brought me clients, revenue, um, they would want to it's not a waste of money. It's not an expense. Actually, it's like it's almost like a plus on their sheet because you're like plugging in X dollars dialed in is 8x, 10x,
Right.
50x, right? It's like question is how much money can you spend on it? And do you have the systems in place in your organization to handle that growth? Because that's the other thing. I'm sure that's a nice side effect of really good marketing is okay, are your systems can they handle the growth? Do you have the bandwidth? Are
Right.
you evolving?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have the front office personnel who are going to be able to, kind of take those leads and massage those into being customers and like getting them to their first appointment? And um, especially back when I was doing dentistry, and we still end up doing some of this, is that we'll find some flaws in the system where we'll find out, oh well, we've been generating all these forms, but you're not emailing them back for 3 days. After 3 days, that
They're
those
gone.
people
They don't even know
are
who the hell you are. They
right.
signed up to someone else.
It's
Yeah,
I like to say that those email leads off of those forms, they age like milk left out on a counter. Their
100%.
lifespan is measured in hours, not
100%.
days. Um,
100%.
yeah,
100%.
even after 6 hours, they're
Still,
actually MIT and I think Microsoft have done studies on this in the past, where I mean they've showed that after 6 hours, yeah, you've completely wasted that potential of that lead.
100%. And for business owners, they have to look at their systems. Like if they're only operating Monday to Friday, and this lead is checking a Friday night, realizing that they're alone again on a Friday and they're struggling with their mental health, like in therapy or something, and you don't get back to them until Monday or Tuesday, you
Right.
you potentially lost that person unless they're like 1% like me who's like, hi, yes, I remember. But most people,
Well, and I think that it's changed, especially since COVID, where now, so much of what I did before COVID was based on phone calls.
hmm
But now we have so many auto schedulers. I have so many clients who are using Calendly, JNapp,
hmm
whatever EHR they're
yes,
using.
yes.
as some sort of auto scheduler on the website.
Yes.
And so it used to be that I would not maybe run ads on Saturdays and Sundays. I would restrict it to the hours of when your person was going to answer the phone. But not all, in some cases that doesn't exist anymore because people are looking for it when they're looking for it,
Yeah.
and the ability to make that to schedule that appointment right there on the website has really kind of changed a lot of things.
Same, definitely. I remember back in the day it was like, do you want a morning or afternoon? We'll get back to you. Now it's
Right,
like, here's the appointment time, please pick one. Right.
right,
That makes and it goes into your Google Calendar, your Outlook calendar. That's all AI, that's all technology we've been using. People never
right,
realize it's been there. It's just that now we have names for it. We see
right.
this as being AI, this is being no, it's there.
Yeah,
Aliens,
absolutely.
the aliens are among us.
And that goes back to my evolve or die, is that you've
100%.
you've just got to keep up with all of this. It's not whether you like it or not. It's this is just how it is.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about your feelings. This is how it is.
Right,
And with businesses, and I'm the same way. It's like, no, we have to step it up. We have to be more efficient. We have to be in a class of your own. Like you really do. You really have to grind. You really have to work hard, but work smart. And that's why using AI, using tools like the services you provide at Rev Key is really important. And I appreciate you being here this evening. I know it's a late recording, but
that's all right. That's all right. This has been great.
yeah, it's been a long day for me, but I mean, this is important work. It's I speak more for physicians. We're not trained to do any marketing at all. There's often rules,
Right,
colleges. Oh, you can't say that you're the best or you're really, like a lot of like
absolutely.
a lot of things you can't say, but there's a lot of things you can say,
Right,
right? You can have
yeah,
swagger when people look at your brand, they're like, oh, but that speaks for itself. You don't have to have words to say where it's like it just
right,
shows the
yeah.
consistency, speaking to their problem, getting to know them.
And I think that that's important when a doctor or anyone kind of in the medical space is looking for a marketing agency, because a lot of if you pick the local marketing agency who just kind of does a little bit of everything, they might not necessarily understand or know some of those rules.
Yes.
Another thing is like Google doesn't allow us to do kind of that traditional remarketing where people like go to your website and then you start following them around with ads. Because it's a HIPAA sensitive business, Google won't let us do that.
Yeah.
Other marketing agencies might not know that and try to do it, and then eventually those ads are going to get disapproved. We just know from the
No.
start that's not a thing that we're allowed to do. So
Yeah.
yeah, knowing some of that regulatory stuff is really important for those for hiring your marketing agency.
100%. I definitely agree. And that's why having agencies that do have a niche and I'm not saying they can't dabble out, but they're very solid. It's really good because I've been to the jack of all trade, the master of none,
Right.
and it didn't work out. So definitely that's important. So John, in closing, is there anything else you'd like to add? And also, how can our listeners get a hold of you? Because like
Sure.
evolve or die. Like let's just keep it real with all
Yeah,
on the cool
absolutely.
side.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
yeah, if you're interested in either, you can talk to me or my VP of marketing, Kate Weiss, and you can go to revkey.com/podcasts, and you can actually see some of the other podcasts that I've been on as well. And, ultimately fill out that form and we'll get something scheduled with you.
Exactly. Fill out that not too painful form.
Yes, yes. It's not 5 pages, and it does not ask for a credit card number.
Very good. Thank you. Awesome. To our listeners, thank you for sharing your most precious resource with your time. If this message resonated with you, leave a 5-star review, but share it with your friends because you probably have friends who are doing great work. They have a service or product that you stand behind, but you see them struggling. You know, it's not business world is not easy, but it can get easier and it can be fun, right? Like over time. So send this information, share this podcast. Know that your message, the work that you do counts, and all your education is not gone to vain. Um, It might feel like that sometimes. We keep it real though here, but it's not gone to waste. You are making an impact, and every dollar you spend counts. Till next time, this is your host, Dr. Tomi Mitchell, and with our guest, John Sanders, on the Mental Health and Wellness Show. Have an amazing day. Bye.